Have you ever felt a sudden, overwhelming certainty that something is terribly wrong? A feeling so powerful, so absolute, that it convinces you that this is it, the final curtain call? A moment where every instinct screams that your time is up, even if, just moments later, you find yourself perfectly fine? If that sounds familiar, you are not alone.
Today, we are diving deep into the strange and fascinating world of our own minds.
We are going to explore 15 specific situations where the human brain, our ultimate survival machine, can trick us into believing our final moments have arrived. This isn't about spooky stories or paranormal events. This is about the incredible, and sometimes flawed biology that is hardwired into each and every one of us. Fact 1. The classic false alarm, a panic attack. Imagine you are just going about your day, maybe sitting at your desk or walking through a grocery store, when suddenly, your heart starts to pound like a drum. You cannot seem to catch your breath. The room begins to spin, and your hands feel tingly and numb. In that moment, your brain isn't thinking, "Oh, this is just a bit of anxiety." No. It receives these intense physical signals, a racing heart, shortness of breath, dizziness, and it searches its database for an explanation. The only logical conclusion it can draw from such extreme data is that a catastrophic physical event is happening. It thinks you are having a heart attack or suffocating. Your brain's threat detection circuit goes into overdrive, convinced that the body is failing and that these are your last moments. It floods you with even more adrenaline, making the symptoms worse, creating a terrifying feedback loop. It's the ultimate example of your body's alarm system screaming fire when there is only smoke, a powerful illusion created entirely within your own mind. Fact 2. Experiencing extreme cold, or hypothermia. When your body gets dangerously cold, your brain initiates a series of desperate survival measures. First comes the violent shivering, an attempt by your muscles to generate heat. But as your core temperature continues to drop, something strange happens. The shivering stops. Your brain, in a last-ditch effort to protect your vital organs, begins to shut down circulation to your limbs. They become numb and useless. As the cold seeps deeper, it starts to affect the brain itself, specifically the hypothalamus, your body's thermostat. This is where things get truly bizarre. The malfunctioning hypothalamus can suddenly release a surge of blood to the extremities, creating a sensation of being intensely hot. This is known as paradoxical undressing. People in the final stages of hypothermia are often found having removed their clothes, completely convinced they are burning up. Their brain, confused and failing, sends one last, tragically wrong signal, making them believe the opposite of what is actually happening. It's a profound system error that precedes the body's final shutdown. Fact 3. The strange state of sleep paralysis. You begin to surface from a dream. Your eyes open. You can see your room, you can hear the sounds around you, but you cannot move a single muscle. You are completely frozen, pinned to your bed by an invisible force. A heavy pressure settles on your chest, making it hard to breathe. A sense of a menacing presence often fills the room, a dark figure lurking just at the edge of your vision. For your conscious, newly awoken mind, this is a nightmare come to life. Your brain is getting two contradictory signals. The mind is awake, but the body is completely unresponsive. This state of paralysis is a normal part of the sleep cycle, called muscle atonia, which prevents you from acting out your dreams. Usually, it wears off the instant you wake up. But sometimes, there is a glitch.
Your mind wakes up first.
Faced with the inexplicable inability to move and the feeling of breathlessness, your brain's ancient fear circuits kick in. It concludes you are being held down, attacked, or are in the process of leaving your body. The only explanation it can conjure for such utter helplessness is that you are in grave danger, and it fills in the sensory gaps with terrifying hallucinations to match the terrifying feeling. Fact 4. The phantom obstruction in your throat. This is a feeling many have experienced during times of intense stress or emotion, known medically as globus sensation. It is the distinct and unnerving feeling of a lump, a tightness, or a blockage in your throat, even when there is absolutely nothing there. You try to swallow, but the feeling persists. You try to take a deep breath, and it feels constricted. For your brain, the equation is simple.
Trop à plus blocage égale suffocation.
It doesn't matter that it's just the muscles in your throat tensing up due to stress. The physical sensation is real, and the brain's interpretation is primal. It sounds the alarm for asphyxiation, convinced that your airway is closing and that you are moments away from your last breath. It's a powerful reminder that our brain often trusts physical sensations far more than rational thought, especially when those sensations tap into our most fundamental fears, like the inability to breathe. Fact 5. The crisis of severe dehydration. Every single cell in your body needs water to function. When you become severely dehydrated, it's not just a matter of feeling thirsty. It's a systemic crisis. Your blood volume decreases, which means your heart has to beat faster and harder to pump the thickening blood through your veins, putting immense strain on your cardiovascular system. Your brain, which is about 75% water, begins to feel the effects profoundly. You become dizzy, confused, and disoriented. Your brain cells are literally struggling to operate. In this state of confusion and physical distress, your brain receives signals of a racing heart, low blood pressure, and cognitive failure. It interprets this constellation of symptoms as a total system collapse. It believes the body's core machinery is breaking down and that the end is imminent. The intense fatigue and delirium that accompany severe dehydration are the brain's way of signaling a catastrophic failure of the body's most basic and essential resource. Fact 6. The void of sensory deprivation. Our brains are constantly processing a massive stream of information from our senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. This is how we build our reality.
So what happens when you take it all away?
In a sensory deprivation tank or a completely silent pitch-black room, the brain is starved of external input. At first, it might be relaxing. But soon, the brain's pattern-seeking engine gets desperate. With no real signals to interpret, it starts to create its own. People begin to experience vivid auditory and visual hallucinations. More profoundly, the sense of self, which is partly defined by the boundary between you and the outside world, can begin to dissolve. This experience, sometimes called ego dissolution, can feel as though you are disintegrating or ceasing to exist as an individual. Your brain, losing its connection to the familiar anchors of reality, can interpret this loss of self as the process of passing away, a journey into nothingness because its entire model of the world has been unplugged. Fact 7. The crushing weight of extreme G-forces. When a fighter pilot or an astronaut pulls a high G maneuver, a powerful force pushes their blood away from their head and down toward their feet. The brain is the first organ to feel this deficit. The experience is a progressive shutdown, and the brain is conscious of it every step of the way. First, peripheral vision fades, creating a tunnel. Then, all color drains from sight, a phenomenon known as grayout. If the force continues, the tunnel closes completely, leading to a G-force-induced loss of consciousness, or GLOC. For the pilot experiencing this, their brain is methodically reporting its own failure. The loss of sight, the feeling of heaviness, the impending darkness, these are all unmistakable signals of a critical system failure. The brain interprets this sequence as the process of life fading away, a literal observable shutdown of its own functions, a prelude to the final darkness. It is a moment where the mind is a direct witness to the body being pushed beyond its operational limits. Fact 8. The silent scream of anesthesia awareness. It is an incredibly rare but real phenomenon. A patient undergoing a medical procedure is given a paralytic agent to keep their muscles still, but the general anesthetic fails to render them unconscious. They are awake. They can hear the doctors, feel the sensations of the procedure, but they cannot move. They cannot scream. They cannot even blink an eye to signal their distress. In this state of total paralysis, the brain is trapped inside a motionless body. It is receiving signals of pain or intense physical sensation, and it is sending frantic commands to the muscles to move, to flee, to do something. But nothing happens. There is no response. For the conscious mind, there is only one possible interpretation of this state. This must be what it feels like at the very end. The complete inability to control your own body while experiencing extreme distress is a scenario so terrifyingly absolute that the brain registers it as a terminal event, a state of being entombed alive within oneself. Fact 9. The stark reality of choking. This is the terrifying cousin of the globus sensation we discussed earlier. But this time, the blockage is real. An object is physically obstructing your ability to draw breath. The brain's reaction is instantaneous and absolute. There is no room for interpretation or doubt. The signal it receives is the most urgent and terrifying one possible. Oxygen supply is cut off. This triggers the most violent form of the fight-or-flight response imaginable. A wave of pure, unadulterated panic floods your system. Your brain screams a single command: clear the airway now. Every ounce of your being is focused on the desperate, frantic struggle to breathe. In these moments, As the struggle yields no result and the world begins to darken at the edges from lack of oxygen, your brain isn't just thinking you might be in trouble. It is 100% certain that this is the final desperate battle for survival, and it is a battle that is being lost in real time. Fact 10. The moment an athlete hits the wall. Anyone who has pushed their body to the absolute limit of endurance knows this feeling. It is not simply being tired or sore. It is a sudden and catastrophic system failure. Your body has depleted its primary fuel source, the glycogen stored in your muscles and liver. One moment you are running, cycling, or swimming, and the next, your body simply refuses to obey. Your legs feel as if they have been filled with concrete. A profound bone-deep fatigue washes over you, and your mind becomes foggy and confused. Your brain, which consumes a huge amount of energy, is also being starved. It receives signals of muscle failure, cognitive decline, and a complete inability to produce power. It interprets this as the body having exhausted all of its life-sustaining resources. It believes the organism is shutting down from a total energy deficit, a slow, grinding halt that feels like the very essence of life is draining away. Fact 11. The disorienting chaos of extreme vertigo. Our sense of balance is something we take for granted. It is managed by a complex system in our inner ear, the vestibular system, which constantly tells our brain which way is up. When this system fails or is severely disrupted, the result is vertigo. But this isn't just a moment of dizziness. This is a violent, uncontrollable sensation that the world is spinning, tilting, or rocking. You cannot stand. You cannot focus your eyes. Your brain is receiving completely chaotic and contradictory information about its position in space. This sensory anarchy is deeply terrifying. The brain loses its most fundamental anchor to reality. In the absence of a stable world, some people feel a sense of detachment, as if they are floating away from their own body. The brain can interpret this profound loss of physical control and spatial awareness as the beginning of the end, a decoupling from the physical world itself. It feels like your very consciousness is coming untethered from its physical mooring. Fact 12. The chilling conviction of Cotard's delusion. We now venture into one of the strangest territories of the human mind. This is not a fleeting feeling or a panic attack. It is a rare and profound psychiatric condition where an individual becomes absolutely convinced that they have already passed away. This is not a metaphor. They believe they are a walking corpse. They may insist that they have no blood, no internal organs, or that they are putrefying. Because of this unshakable belief, they might stop eating or bathing, seeing no point in caring for a body that is already gone. This goes beyond a false alarm. In this state, the brain has bypassed the alarm stage entirely and has rewritten its own fundamental status. The person's internal reality is that the final event has already occurred. It is a terrifying glimpse into the brain's power to construct its own reality, a delusion so complete that it makes a person believe they are a ghost in their own life, experiencing a post-existent state while still being very much alive. Fact 13. The overwhelming experience of near drowning. When water enters the airway, the body's first response is a violent spasm of the larynx, sealing the entrance to the lungs. This is a desperate reflex to protect them, but it also cuts off all air. The initial moments are pure, agonizing struggle. The drive to breathe is the most powerful instinct we have, and it is being completely denied. The brain is on absolute high alert, flooded with signals of suffocation and extreme distress. But if the situation continues, a strange and eerie transition can occur. As oxygen levels in the brain plummet, the frantic struggle may give way to an unexpected sense of calm or even euphoria. This isn't a peaceful acceptance. It is a sign of the brain beginning to shut down. The critical thinking centers fail, and the brain releases a flood of neurochemicals that can create a dreamlike state. The brain, unable to resolve the crisis and starved of oxygen, essentially begins to power down, and this shutdown process is perceived by the fading consciousness as a serene departure, a final, peaceful drift into darkness. Fact 14. The profound state of ego dissolution. This experience is most famously associated with certain powerful psychoactive substances, but it is fundamentally a neurological event. These substances can disrupt the normal activity of a brain network known as the default mode network. This network is, in many ways, the biological home of our ego. It is active when we are thinking about ourselves, our past, and our future. When its activity is dramatically reduced, the rigid boundaries of the self can begin to melt away. The feeling of being a separate individual, an I inside a body, starts to disintegrate. A person might feel as though they are merging with their surroundings, with the universe itself. For the brain, this is a signal of the highest possible alert. The very concept of the individual, the core construct of its entire existence, is coming apart. This loss of self, this dissolution of the ego, can be interpreted by the brain's ancient survival mechanisms as the ultimate terminal event. It feels like you are ceasing to be, not just physically, but as a conscious entity. The alarm isn't for the body's failure, but for the very evaporation of the self. Fact 15. The sudden catastrophe of a massive stroke. A major stroke is a direct assault on the brain. A blood vessel either bursts or is blocked, and brain cells are violently and rapidly deprived of oxygen and nutrients. Unlike the other scenarios where the brain is interpreting signals from the body, here the brain is the signal. It is the one failing. A person experiencing this may be consciously aware as their own functions are erased in real time. Suddenly, they cannot speak the words they are forming in their mind. One entire side of their body goes numb and limp. Their vision might tear in half. The brain's processing power collapses into confusion and terror. The conscious mind becomes a witness to its own destruction. It is aware that the command center is under catastrophic attack and is breaking down moment by moment. It's not a false alarm or a misinterpretation. It is the horrifyingly lucid experience of the machinery of consciousness itself being unplugged, a final undeniable signal that the system is suffering a fatal and irreversible error. So, as we have seen, from the internal chaos of a panic attack to the silent shutdown of extreme cold, our brain has a powerful and sometimes terrifyingly convincing way of sounding the alarm. What connects all these 15 experiences is not the presence of a true final threat, but the brain's interpretation of one. It is a testament to an ancient survival system that has been fine-tuned over millions of years. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced one of these powerful false alarms? Which of these states did you find the most surprising or unsettling? Thank you for watching, and stay curious.